it can cut. It's just so canted, I guess, because I don't want to thrust like this, right? Problem with thrusting like this, as you can see. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested. I have a shovel. Yes, in today's episode we're going to be exploring the concept of Shovel Knight. Now perhaps you've heard of this. It's a game where the main character is a knight and he has a shovel that has things like a crossguard and a handle. It's supposed to be like a play on a sword, right? And I thought, why not put it to the test? Not this one. This one is obviously a little bit small for our use case. We will be getting a bigger one, but it does bring up an interesting question that I wanted to explore, and that is, how good is a shovel as a weapon? Because on paper there's a lot of things going for it. It obviously has, a big long wooden haft. It has a solid metal head that can be used for, bludgeoning or slicing or whatever, right? So you would think that a shovel is actually a pretty good weapon. It's actually a little bit more nuanced and complex than you first might think. Now, funnily enough, I've actually done the complete opposite of this particular concept. I have dug a hole with swords before. So in this particular case, we're going to be using a shovel as a sword. I have a weird job. Here is our shovel. Shovel, that's it, that's all. That's what it is. All right, so I didn't do a build, obviously, for today's episode. Honestly, I just couldn't be bothered. That's it, end of discussion. But this is what I came up with. Obviously, this is as accurate as I could get it to, obviously, the game. We have a shovel, has a crossguard, has a D kind of handle on it, and this is sharp up here. Like, this actually has an edge on it, not just for show. And I went for somewhat of that, what's it called, like that hyper-realistic kind of real world comic art type thing. I just thought that was applicable for the game, right? Now, what do we think of it? Now, I want to make this clear, right? This is actually a proper, like, no joke shovel. This is a heat treated and tempered steel head. So this is like essentially a real battle ready weapon, just obviously in the shape of a shovel. So it's legit, right? Okay. Where should we start with this one? Because I think there's a little bit of complexity about this. First off, this is an interesting weapon because on paper, there's actually a lot of things going for it. We obviously have a large kind of, weight and force concentrating head that is sharp on top of a big long haft that has some hand protection. So this is like, on paper, this is very similar to something like, maybe like a Dane axe or a halberd or any of those sorts of weapons. It's even in kind of, perhaps the same sort of length as maybe a Dane axe, not necessarily a halberd, right? But on paper, this should be a good weapon. So is it a good weapon? Now, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Honestly, no. I don't think it's a good weapon, but there's context and caveats, of course, to do with this. First and foremost, one thing I don't like is how shovels are actually kind of, bent from the head. Obviously, this makes them great shovels to be able to dig some dirt, but it makes them kind of bad weapons because it means getting your edge alignment for a lot of things. For example, if I want to cut something, try and show it here, if I want to cut something, that is a very awkward kind of position to aim the head at to be able to, slice something open. In terms of thrusting now, it's a little bit like a katana or maybe like just a curved single-edged sword in this aspect. You can thrust down with it. Thrusting up means you can thrust up towards the face and the head, which we'll show a little bit later with Tony, which isn't necessarily bad, but it does mean that you are losing force and power because obviously the tip of this head is not in line with the haft itself. So you can't really put as much force as you would really want. As you can see, it's bent down, right? In terms of the actual hand protection on it, usually I'm all for this, but we run into the age-old problem of weight distribution and mass. If you look at this, right, this is actually really heavy because I have no leverage. If I move my hand over here, all of a sudden it's great. We can actually fight with it, we can thrust with it, we can do a whole bunch of cool shit with it. But the moment I try and use it like, try and actually use the crossguard itself, it becomes way heavier. It's like kind of like the giant sword problem. It's just basically weight distribution. That's our biggest hurdle here. In terms of this D handle on the end, I actually don't hate this. Funnily enough, this shovel didn't come with one. So I had to, because from what I've seen, right, I'm not an expert on shovels, but from what I've seen, these larger full-size shovels don't actually come with these D handles. So you have to buy them individually and they cost like 30 bucks. And this shovel cost me like 40 bucks. So I'm like, that's ridiculous. So I 3D printed one. Hopefully it'll do, it's just for the accuracy. I do like that it gives you kind of an interesting, I would say, dynamic about using the shovel. But I think, honestly, I'd much prefer to just have just a regular end of a haft here, even maybe like a spike on the end or something like that. I don't know, but I just don't think I would use this very much. Great for a shovel, not necessarily best for a weapon. So now that we've got it, let's actually try and I would say cut with it. Now, like I said, it is sharp, so it should do something. So with the thrusting ability on this, it does have somewhat of, you know, kind of like somewhat of a tip, right? Is this the best for thrusting? Absolutely not at all, but it's definitely better than something like, obviously, the Liepa, right? As an example. So it should be able to, like, for the most part, thrust. I guess, because I don't want to thrust like this, right? Problem with thrusting like this, as you can see, the head is completely canted. So to be able to thrust straight, I'm kind of over here. So thrusting like this seems to be the best option. It worked. That cut it, I think. Yeah, that's a nice clean, I'm not gonna say clean, that's bullshit, but it is a cut. It did cut it. Kind of like a scoop, maybe. Man, this is really, I'm standing in such weird angles because obviously the head is so all right, I'll do a rising cut. I think that'll be my best bet here, and see if we get a good cut on this. I don't know what happened there. Let's have a look. Okay, we did cut it. Spiraled a little bit. Yeah, I guess it works, kind of. Should I try and use it like a sword for this one? Fucking hell, that is heavy. I mean, yeah. To explain how bad that is actually a lot worse than swinging my giant swords. That feels way worse than my literal giant swords. That is bad. It can cut. It's just so like canted, I guess, that it makes it so difficult to actually use it. Now, is that always bad? Well, one particular context where I think this actually might be somewhat advantageous is, you know, somebody has a shield there, you need to get over their shield. That does seem like something that this could perhaps excel at, right? Obviously, all of a sudden, if you have a shield here, being able to get past is a lot easier, right? So it's not necessarily like you couldn't find a use for it, but would I choose this particular weapon? No, I don't think I would. All right, let me see if I can get my edge line. Maybe it's an edge alignment issue. Got one. Yeah. Oh, I got technically 3. Okay, that's terrible. That's absolutely trash. If you're enjoying today's episode, you should consider subscribing. I would truly appreciate it. You'll get more riveting content like me in a disgusting pond water in full armor. Shit, nearly slipped there. Yeah, subscribe. Let me get the f out of here. Obviously, with a blade like this, with this much force, this much mass, we want to hit something a little bit harder than something like the ballistic head, right? So we've got some coconuts here, and obviously we've got the stump, the wood underneath. Let's give them both a little bit of a test. Let's see. This should be able to get through this relatively easy for the most part. Like I said, I got it sharp. I wasn't joking. So this is where I think this starts to shine a little bit. Obviously fine, you know, precise cutting with this sort of weapon, if we're going to be super generous. I mean, it is a weapon, but it's more of a makeshift weapon than anything else. I should save that till the outro. Anyway, you know, fine precision slicing is going to be difficult because this is more akin to, like, you know, obviously like an axe is how I would put it. Don't let this crossguard deceive you. This is something that I actually don't like about the design. The crossguard obviously turns it into, you know, shovel knight. It's supposed to be kind of a bit of a play on a sword. The problem is this sort of weapon, the weight distribution of it, how the mass, you know, obviously is, you know, distributed around this weapon does not lend itself to being held and wielded like a regular sword, right? This is much more similar to something like an axe, right? So having this hand protection here, usually I'm all on board, right? But when it gets to larger weapons, you don't necessarily want a crossguard on. This actually just gets in the way for this particular type of weapon more than anything else. I mean, that is pretty solid, right? Hey. Thrusting with it. See, when we thrust, we can, for the upward scoop, literally like digging a hole, right? We can go up towards the face and the head, which is pretty good. However, I like to put in a little bit more force with it. So I think going down with it is a far more effective way to thrust with this sort of weapon. But again, most of the damage potential here is on the head. It is on these large surfaces here. So obviously hitting something like that, this is a battle ready helmet here. And this did put a dent in it. Like that would, using it to get over a shield is actually a reasonable, like I actually think that is a use case for this sort of setup, right? Because even if they have a shield here raised, I can still get over that nice and easy. Bang, straight in Tony's head, right? Sweep up, thrust to the head. All right, let's smash Tony right in his battle ready helm. Yeah, man, that rings like a bell. But yeah, a lot of force actually, and it's not as bad as I thought it would be, specifically striking something hard, right? Because obviously with that fine slicing, you need good edge alignment to be able to cut. With this, you can just bonk a little bit more. Your edge alignment doesn't need to be perfect. So what do we think of the Shovel Knight's shovel, I guess? It's a little bit of a mixed bag because as a dedicated weapon, right, there is so literally almost every other weapon that I can think of in this length and weight is better than this. I don't think it's very good, but as a weapon just in general, right, it's completely deadly. It's a force multiplier. You have reach, you have like a whole bunch of stuff. So it's not like it's useless, but it's really not as good as you might think. I actually think it's worse than I thought it would originally be, honestly. But it is a fantasy pop culture weapon, and that means that we need to get into Tyrant's initial thoughts, score, or TITS for short, starting off with comfort. Oh shit. Okay. Like when you use it like this, it is not very comfortable. And the reason why is it's just not balanced correctly. Because this head is not in line with the actual haft of it, it means that it kind of hangs over to whatever side that it is facing on, right? So on this particular, for me, right, it's on the right. So it means that the weight is kind of leaning over to the right. And then obviously I don't really have much, you know, effective places that I can put my hand down here because I have a crossguard in the way. So in terms of its comfort, it's actually kind of uncomfortable to use. I don't actually like it. Maybe this would be fixed if we used like a smaller head. It had less of an aggressive kind of, cant to it, I guess. But for the most part, for what we've got here, I mean, I think this is a pretty generous, I would say, example. It's, you know, heat treated, tempered head. It's large like it is in the games. It looks like it's the same proportions, everything. So yeah, for the comfort, I'm in like a 5. Like this is not comfortable. I don't like moving this around. It does not feel light and nimble. It doesn't feel like I'm enjoying it. And cutting with it, getting your edge alignment is terrible. All right, wieldability, 3. This is not good. It's even worse than its comfort. Actually, like I said, moving this around is terrible. And it's actually kind of really exhausting on my lead hand here. Design. I will give it a 7 for design, because there's just a couple of things that you could do here to fix this up and make this a much better weapon, right? Take away obviously this bend here, make it straight, take away the crossguard, take away this D-ring, and you have essentially a perfectly functional axe, if we want to put it that way. So there is some things that you could do that would make it far more effective, but in its current setup, specifically with this crossguard, there's just no way. This is way too heavy. I think 7 is fair for the design. It's not completely bad, but there is some obviously definite room for improvement. And then last but not least is effectiveness. This one is a little bit hard to quantify, because the truth is, right, this is going to go into the same sort of category as like a Dane axe or a spear or a halberd, right? Like really effective, great weapons. And this is just nowhere near those. But it does still have obviously lethal potential with it. 4. Like, it's still deadly, but it's nowhere near, it's not very good at it. I'm gonna put it that way. That gives us a final score of 19 out of 40. Not even halfway. Man, it's been a while since we've had one that has fallen this short, I would say. Yeah, I thought it would be a bit better, but it's just the way it fell, I guess. But that is going to be all. Thank you guys for watching. I genuinely hope you enjoyed. This was fun, a little bit of wacky. I thought we'd get back to some more, you know, kind of crazy out there pop culture weapons. But with that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you've subscribed if you haven't already. And as always, I'll see you next week in another episode. Have a good one.